Are you ready to overcome addictive behaviors? Today, I'm interviewing Anthony of Inclusive Yoga. He has a YouTube channel where he offers chair yoga, and I'm going to ask him some questions on healing from addiction through yoga. And my name's Mandi Gardner, and I'm a trauma informed yoga teacher as well as a DBT skills coach. So, what are some specific yoga practices or techniques that you found the most transformative? So, looking at your weight loss journey and moving from 10 to 20 minutes a day and then moving forward. Was there something that you always held to?
Different practices help for different things. So the asana, the postures, were the first thing I did, and those completely healed my back. I had herniated and bulging discs in every thoracic spine, and I went to get an MRI 2 years later, and they were gone. There was nothing there. So
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah, they completely healed it. I think the postures need to be practiced. The way I practice them, that I found they heal best for me, is holding the postures and moving very mindfully with long, slow breaths, eyes steadily locked on one point. It's a very focused thing. And I think in that, there's a lot of energy concentrated, and the healing happens from the energy concentration, from being aware, feeling in our body,
Absolutely.
actually being aware of what you're feeling into areas instead of just going through it quick. Physically, that can either lessen the symptoms of most physical pain or help people heal themselves for sure. On an emotional level, I think the postures help with emotions, but the breathing has helped me tremendously. The yoga breathing, the long, slow breathing, and also breath work, which personally I would consider part of yoga, pranayama, the breathing exercises. The way it's practiced is a little different for emotions. People practice it for long periods of time. And then what happens is like you get out of yourself to stop yourself from feeling something. You get so much oxygen in the body. You get in a lightheaded state where it bypasses a little bit and a lot of energy comes up. There's some movements, shaking, crying, laughing, yelling, whatever the emotion is, and needs to come up. And you let yourself do that. So there's one in particular that helped me a lot called transformational breath work.
So, were there any specific asanas or postures that you always did every day, or do you tend to do what you're feeling in the moment? What's your method?
Now I just do what my body needs pretty much. I tend to hold the postures. I love to hold the postures long, so I have to make a mental effort to do some little vigorous exercise to keep my body strong. When I first started, I did a lot of the basic postures, really just the basic standard postures like downward dog, holding warrior two, warrior one, these sturdy balanced postures, pyramid pose. Forward fold, especially for my back, that helped tremendously because it takes a long time, especially when you're tight. If you can't bend 90 degrees, then you're up here like this. That's how I was. I couldn't, my hands just hang down. And then gradually, but once you get to the part where you can fold from below your butt and you go over, then the weight starts to pull down on the spine and creating traction in your spine. And I think that helped create a lot of space on my spine. I held a lot of those
Yes.
effortless postures, the ones that aren't effortful, to be honest. I didn't do many vinyasa like and chaturanga and all that stuff when I first started. The really basic postures.
Good to hear. The beautiful thing about yoga is that we get to tap into our bodies and really tap what is it that I need right now. And that's a beautiful piece of recovering from trauma, too. Being able to really build that self confidence and being able to make choices for ourselves and decide this is how far I'm going. I'm doing a lot today, or I'm taking it easy today. I think it's really important for us, being a childhood trauma survivor. I had a lot of expectations of myself, like I got to push myself. And so being able to really reframe my perspective, and it doesn't have to be a vigorous yoga sequence. It can be very wonderful, right? And invigorating and all that stuff. But we need to be mindful of the emotional state we're in and what's going to serve us in that moment. I really love hearing how you used it. You did it on your own at home. You did what served you. I love to hear that because that's what I'm trying to encourage our listeners or whoever's watching. Yoga is really your personal practice. The teacher is just there to guide you through your personal practice. practice. And this is really our opportunity to tap in, and why it helps us deal with these addictive behaviors is because it helps us breathe through the discomfort, right? Whether that's doing chaturanga or pigeon pose, it's just breathing through the discomfort. And then eventually you feel a little better on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds great. I think that's a wonderful thing to work towards. I always naturally try to respect people's space in class. And also, if you want to lay down on the mat the whole time, I don't care. Do what feels good for you. It's not about me. It's another thing why it's wonderful how they have all of these different kinds of practice now as well, because honestly, something like Bikram, for example, wouldn't be great for someone who has a traumatic background to go and take one of those classes. The way it's directed tends to be very militaristic feeling, push yourself kind of
Yeah.
thing. Something like restorative might be great, or a gentle yoga class. Some teachers are more hands-on. Some teachers are like, hey, everybody use their own body.
If you are going to a yoga class and you are very sensitive to touch, just taking a moment to connect with your teacher and let them know. A lot of times teachers will ask, were there any particular moments in your yoga practice where you felt like a significant breakthrough?
I would say many times, to be honest. Just with the different things. One thing I noticed in my body a lot, and again, maybe because I came from a really inactive body, I never practiced sports when I was younger, really, except for when I was like really young. I had a lot of injuries. I do remember I injured myself a lot when I was practicing at home, but a lot of it made me aware of things. Injury, in my experience, was not always a bad thing. It was to show me something I wasn't paying attention to. It was like my body trying to be like, hey, pay attention to this. A lot of times I would have pops. For example, your hip, if the thigh is pushed into the hip, like that, then it would pop eventually, like a release, like pop out. And it might pull a muscle or something, but it was part of a release in my experience. It was that physically, I had a lot of those moments where I would like, oh, finally that opened up. It feels wonderful. And then emotionally also, I had a lot of moments where I just have a release for no reason, or wonderfully, I come into a new practice. Someone tells me about the breath work or something like that. That time in India, for sure, for the emotional part. And Vipassana meditation. I don't know if you ever heard of that. They have centers all over the country here. And it's free. It's donation based. So you donate afterwards, after you go, but it's 10-day silent retreats. They teach you how to meditate. And those were wonderful too. I've been to a couple of those and they were just always wonderful experience where you're forced to look at a lot of stuff because there's no distractions.
That sounds incredible. All right. So when we are talking about managing cravings or dealing with stress during the recovering process, do you have any breathing techniques or tips you could offer people?
Absolutely. I think those three things we talked about earlier are very useful, especially when you're first starting with it. So if anger is coming up, definitely getting it out some way, some sort of physical movement to get that energy out a bit and see if that works. Breathing wise, we tend to breathe into our chests when we're all short breaths and in the chest, right? When you're thinking a lot. So bringing the energy down from your head, focus just on the belly and breathing into around your navel and just breathing down into there. Just trying to expand that area calms the nervous system, making your breath a bit longer, not forcing it in any way, but making your breath a bit longer and breathing in down around your navel. That alone will calm your nervous system a little bit. And then the inquiry that we were talking about earlier, is this so bad that I need to react and get out of it, find something to pull myself out of this? Or let me see what's actually happening inside, the sensation. So the breathing, being aware of what is this actually feeling? What does this actually feel like? And is it so bad? And is there some other way I can experience this energy? Can I let it move? What am I avoiding feeling? From my experience, it's always something. If I'd have an urge to get drugs, or if I had wanted to go to the fridge and get something to eat or whatever, what am I avoiding feeling? There's something there. It may be uncomfortable to look at, but what am I avoiding feeling? There's some energy coming up because that's that energy to go get something, right? To move, it gets your body moving. So what is that actually that I'm avoiding feeling? It's okay. It's safe to feel. It's just uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable, but it's safe. You can't get hurt feeling your feelings. It's just not comfortable.
Thank you for that. That's so perfect. It's just uncomfortable, but we're not going to die. We just have
Yeah.
to sit through it.
We just don't want to feel it, but it's not dangerous.
Right. The more I breathe through it and practice mindfulness in those moments, the stronger I can get in those moments. It still comes up, but I can cut it off a little bit shorter now. We're just having that awareness, and just having some grace with ourselves. Really, I think the bottom line is learning how to really love ourselves. Yoga is a great way to learn how to connect and love ourselves, and breathing, because that's really what yoga is doing, helping us to connect more deeply to our breath. So thank you for everything that you've shared so far.
That's a beautiful way of saying it. It's absolutely true because we tend to get this picture, we have this image of perfection, right? Because outside society, we get this image of what our perfect self looks like, our perfect behavior is, external, appearance wise. And then we try to live up to that, which is unrealistic. When I let go of that image of where I'm supposed to be, because that's just a thought, an idea, usually from the outside, the reality is that it's an endless process. It's a process, not like a circle. So you just keep going with it. Different stuff coming up, different things to learn all the time, different versions of myself. You can't reach that because it will never stay the same. Once you reach that perfection, whatever that image is, it's going to change eventually because we all age, we all change, and our life doesn't stop. Right?
Yeah,
It can be
true.
really hard on ourselves. Absolutely.
I've been talking to my 16-year-old son recently about how the only constant is change. And
Yeah.
he's just, I don't like it. I just want things to stop changing. That's life. Let's learn how to breathe through it. Tell us your website.
Inclusive Yoga with Anthony on YouTube is probably the best way to find everything that I do because I have everything on
Okay.
there. My
Okay.
website is Anthony Serpiello. It's probably on the bottom of the screen there, but it has everything on there. I'm also a musician, so it has my music on there.
You can find me, Mandi Gardner, at Holistic Evolution Shala.